Hey, this is Frank with Readphone Studios, and today what we're going to be doing is a setting card drawing rather than a character card drawing, which is what I have been doing for the last 2 months or so. The reason why we're going to be doing this is because I'm in the middle of developing my website, and that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on as far as Temporal Shards recently. Just because I have the website and I had a due date for when I wanted to be done and it wasn't done by then, so starting to put serious work into it now. So this setting is a location in Gyara called the Overfall, which, to give you a little bit of the backstory, when the Halfgod of Gyara was born, they had the Halfgod magic group of flight, which caused everyone in the nation to gain the power of flight, as well to rip the mountain from its roots and hover it high into the sky. This is due to the fact that half-gods have a very intense magical aura, I guess you could call it. I don't think that's the word that I would use in any other circumstance, because I'm not a huge fan of saying the word aura when it comes to magic. It makes it feel too whimsical, and I hate the idea of being able to do whatever you want with magic. I'm a kind of a person who likes a really hard magic system. So the idea that things just happen because things just happen is, I guess you could say, somewhat annoying to me. Anyways, that is not the point. The point is this mountain and a lot of the land around it was torn from its roots and hefted up into the air amidst the power of the half-god of the region, which naturally creates some interesting landscapes. I've never been very good at drawing landscapes, but I think this one came out pretty well. Aside from perhaps the perspective, I've never been very good at perspective either, so you'll have to forgive me for how some of the aspects of this piece came out. The forested areas were fun to do because they just kind of came and went, and they were easy enough to get the amount of detail out of them that I wanted. I think the most important piece about this artwork is the feeling of the individual stone pieces, which I'm going to get to drawing in just a couple seconds here, getting larger as they go up, because the half-god magic kind of radiates like a magnet, causing pieces closer to the ground or farther away to float less, and so it needs smaller chunks to be able to get them up, and it only has so much magic down in that area. I don't know quite how to describe it, but imagine like a gravitational field. It gets weaker as it goes out and stronger towards the base, and so anything wanting to enter Gyara has to go through the Overfall unless it itself can fly. One thing that's interesting about this piece that I only realized during the last time I was trying to record this audio was that I drew this upper half of the mountain and I had intended to use it for something, and then I turned off the layer and I think I just completely forgot that it ever even existed. So it mostly looks just like a flat plane rather than a mountaintop, which I think is fine. It still works overall. I just wish I'd caught that before I put all the other details in, because now I don't want to change it. All the details are nice, especially this ridge of trees. I like the ridge of trees because it really gives it this 3D effect that really I think fits overall. The next thing that I ended up doing was the main region of Gyara, which is the tree city, Trey Stelnar, if I remember correctly. And I tried to stay low detail with this because it definitely is intended to be a piece in the background rather than something really big in the foreground, but it is also so ginormous and massive that I sort of needed it to have a certain amount of detail. Overall, I think I added in too much detail. Some more blurring and smudging would have been a good idea. But it's not like it makes the entire piece look terrible. It just wasn't quite what I was going for. These are obviously the makings of the, I guess, the leaves, the upper part of the tree, whatever that's called. I feel like I have it, but I just don't remember. So I went in and just moved the piece around to see how it fit, added some highlight on the leaves, and I'm still in the process of designing the species of creature that lives on Gyara, because I had an initial design that I thought looked alright, and then I tried designing more following the same sort of guidelines, and then it just looked absolutely atrocious. So maybe I'll even do that on a video. I don't know. It would need to be digital because I don't have a good camera that would be able to record such a thing. But yeah, I did just totally forget about the mountain. Oh well. I'm carving in all of the more minuscule details. I tried to make it look like there were really small pieces that were hovering off, so I hope that came out well. And making sure that the sky was the right color and shade that I wanted to be. Initially, the pieces blended in. The pieces of the actual staircase blended in more than I would have liked them to. But once I got the detail on them, it looked more than fine. It looked absolutely perfect. In my mind. Anyways, I'm not going to say that I'm some master artiste, but it definitely looked better than I was hoping it would. Well, I wouldn't say that. It looked exactly the way that I was hoping it would. And yeah, I think that's one of the most important things, is being happy with your own work. Figuring out what you want to do, and if you don't quite accomplish it, no big deal. If you do accomplish it, fantastic. That is all that matters. But the floating staircase, when people enter Gyara from the floating staircase, it feels like you are actually losing gravity because you're gaining the ability to fly. And I think that's really one of the most fascinating things about Temporal Shards, is I've set it up as a world. There are half-gods, but there's no god system, which is one of the things that they talk about a lot in Temporal Shards. People often refer to gods and godlike entities, but outside of the temporals, no gods exist that give the world power. The magic system and the magic structure just exists, and it's a little bit strange, but I also think that it really works for the world, because I don't want it to be something where they need to, say, for example, pray to gods to have their power. They just have it because it's a natural piece of the world. It's how the world functions. The part that I'm doing right now is trying to make it look like all the pieces came from a relatively fresh hole in the ground. It would be relatively fresh. It's only around 700 years that this particular half-god has been alive. They live also a lot longer than the regular inhabitants of Saphira, the half-gods. They are generally exponentially older. So, and they usually only come around once every 100 years after the last one died. But they are the world of Saphira, that is in a time where there is 7 half-gods that the majority of people know about, And there is actually an 8th, but nobody knows that she actually exists. Not really. I think some of the characters meet her, and she does become a relatively important figure in the story that I'm crafting in my head, and I'm eventually going to be crafting on the website. She becomes important later on, but she's meant to be a mystery that hangs around, so I'm not going to spoil too much about her, other than the fact that she exists. Not even going to say her name, but yeah, so to put some finishing touches on this piece, I drew in some happy, fluffy little clouds, and I think the clouds came out really well. A little bit too realistic, I think, for what the rest of the piece was going for. I definitely think I should have painted them in a different way, but overall they add this nice feeling of highlight and sunset to the scene that was not really missing, but just a little bit lacking before I put them in. So I'm definitely happy that I did do that. And we get to the really fun part, the part where I put the flying magic on all of the individual little floating islands. The reason I did this was because I just felt like it didn't look magic enough the way that it was. And I wanted to make it really clear that they were hovering by magic, not just by their own volition or by some act of the world, because it is important to highlight the fact that the half-gods do have this power over the world around them and of their nation. But yeah, so that's the entire piece. And yeah, I really like how this one came out. I showed this off to a friend just to get their opinion, and they said that they would actually buy it as an art print, which I don't know if there are going to be art prints of each of the individual pieces. Oh, that just made me feel so happy, the fact that anyone would actually want to purchase my art. Anyways, I will be signing out, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.